So this month's deep dive topic is that Anchor+Double integration. It's come out a while back, but there's a lot of new kind of people talking about it or just getting to the point where we're out of 1099 season and out of tax season and we can start to breathe and kind of explore other pieces. So that's what we're going to be deep diving into today.
Quick check, Erica. Did you start the recording?
I did. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Perfect.
Okay, so in case you have only seen our name in the Facebook group or have not come across us and just kind of found out about this call, we are Hughes and Strong. And honestly, we started this because we just get super nerdy about all of the how does something work and how can we set this up and oh, this is a cool tool, but how do we customize it if you do this in your business or if you don't want to do that in your business? So we got really into Double and workflows. So we specialize in Double right now, but think of us as the system nerds. That does not mean that we know everything or every button, but it is our full-time excited job to get to kind of explore new features, figure out how things work, figure out how to customize it for the person in front of us. So it's a little bit easier to hop into or at least have a librarian to ask the questions to and point you to the right resources instead of having to start from scratch. So that's a little bit about us. Now with that, we'll go hop onto the next slide. One thing that is really, really important to us and just important when you're talking about software, systems, workflows, processes, it's super easy to feel behind or like you're not doing something right. I feel like that's just business in general, honestly, is there's that feeling overarchingly everywhere. So we want to make sure that you like drop your shoulders and just think about today as ideas that you could implement. You can also just throw these in your back pocket and come back around to them later if this is not season or if this is not something that really resonates for you right now. So just think about any of these as things you could do, not more pressure and weight on things that you should do. One of the things we say all the time is don't shit on yourself. So be really careful about the extra pressure that you put on yourself with any ideas or topics that we talk about today. And with that being said, we are going to talk about deep dive topic, right? That Anchor+Double integration. But the second half of this call is going to be open for any and all questions, whether it's related to that deep dive topic or just random, hey, tell me about this new feature. Hey, I'm running into this issue. Hey, where would you start with Double? Anything like that is fair game, but it is the worst to feel like you are in a lecture hall. You have to hold on to your question that popped up until somebody asks, and then by the time they ask, you're like, oh, I had something and now I can't remember. So save yourself that mental hurdle and mental energy spent. Drop those in the chat anytime throughout the presentation. Again, whether it's related to the topic or otherwise, just some random question that you had come up. And we will kind of sort through those after we get done with the actual slide deck and demo. So feel free to drop those in anytime. Don't feel like you have to wait until we ask for questions. We'll kind of fold those in as we're going. And then last thing to note before we get into everything is recording of today's call is going to be available on our YouTube channel for free on Friday and then sent out in an email as well. So if you have to hop off or if you don't want to frantically take notes and you just want to go back later and catch those couple of things that you missed, you're more than welcome to do that and catch that recording. So we will send it out and it'll be public on YouTube on Friday. With that, couple of how are we going to structure this call just so everybody's on the same page, and then we will get into the actual meat and potatoes here. So like I said, that deep dive is going to be all about that double anchor integration, and then we're going to also talk about what issues or kind of things you might run into and how to troubleshoot those in case you get started. You set all of this up because it is honestly pretty straightforward, but we want to give you a heads up for things you might run into and how to kind of tackle that on the front end so you don't get stuck halfway through that process. And then the rest of the call is open to other Q&As. So like I said, new features, how to utilize Double in different ways, how to troubleshoot issues that you're coming across, anything like that is fair game as well. With that, Jody, do you mind getting us started?
Sure. So we're excited to talk about this direct integration. Before, we would have to use a middleman, something like Zapier, to send something over. But now Anchor and Double partnered together to make this a little bit more streamlined. So they'll have some automations built in to help blend the two together. So Anchor is going to be that front end system. That's where they do proposals, contracts. You can have all of your um, services and packages in there. It's also where you can manage your billing. And then from there, client signs a proposal, signs a contract that can kick over to Double and get you ready to do the day-to-day work there. So your month-end closing, any project management that you might have in there, or continued ongoing communication through Double. It just is a great one-two punch for you. So what's possible with this integration? Like I said, you can create unconnected clients, you can add client portal contacts, and it can even automatically drop in task templates. A really
Yeah.
great way to get everything going without having to do all the manual work in between or potentially miss a step.
Exactly. Onboarding's a lot of tedious bits and pieces that we have to remember and do and click anyway. So if we can shorten that to help us create the client, to add those contacts in as emails, and to drop some of our onboarding templates or anything like that to get us started, that's going to make it to where we can just hop in Double, see that new client, and get started with our tasks.
So where do you start? It's really this simple, the one, two, three. So in Double, you're going to grab an API key. We're going to show you what that looks like in just a second. So you're going to grab an API key that you're going to enter into Anchor to make that connection. And then you're going to do some mapping to map those packages and services over to create that streamline automation. So this is what the screens will look like for you. Getting that API key from Double is going to be in the practice management practice settings, and it's going to be there at the bottom. You'll generate the API key down here that you can then put into Anchor. When you go to make that, you log into your Anchor software here. You'll put in your information that you just created in Double. And then from there, the fun really begins with mapping, and you can make your decisions about what you want, which anchor service goes with which double template, and do all the mapping in the background. We're going to show some more of this in the demo here shortly. But let's talk about, so again, it's really that simple. One, two, three, you're connected, you've got the mapping. But with any software, there's often things that you run into. One common issue that we've heard about is not being able to find that generate API button. Um, so let me jump back to it. So this button here, your double API, if you are not seeing that, it is probably because you're not the super admin on the account. So only the super admin has that. So you might need to ask your super admin to be able to give you that information. Past that, an admin, anyone with admin user permissions can set up the rest of this.
Yeah, exactly. This is one of the only steps that can get kind of complicated, honestly, is if you're like, okay, this is step number one and I can't find the button. I actually ran into that this morning while I was kind of setting up the slides and double checking. And I had to log in to be our super admin on the account and it shows up beautifully. So if you run into that issue, this is your troubleshoot for that. Okay, this is one of the things that we've kind of mapped out for other people as we help them set this up is once you've mapped out your services, right? So you've said, okay, if somebody signs on for payroll services, here's the template I want to drop into that client in Double. Okay, beautiful. We've got all of this set up. A lot of us don't inherently have like an onboarding package that can drop in our onboarding template, but we have to do those steps. We have to set up all the things in Double. We have to go create that client file system. We have to send our initial like requests through the client portal. So sometimes this can be a gap where it drops in all of the service tasks and templates, but we don't have those onboarding steps. So if you are kind of thinking about this process start to finish, we can tackle this two different ways. So in Anchor, we can create a new client setup service or package. This can be free or paid, however you want to tackle it. That's included in all proposals, and that one can map to the onboarding template, right? We can go that way and just have a free or paid service that kind of maps directly to that onboarding template. Or we can map a service in Anchor to multiple templates. And this is actually really cool. So we could say anybody that signs on for a cleanup also gets our onboarding template as well as our cleanup template. Or anybody that signs on for monthly bookkeeping gets our monthly bookkeeping template and our onboarding template. So you can choose how you want to go about this just to make it easy on you. But those are kind of your two best options. Either way, you want to make sure that when it gets created in Double, that it does have your onboarding template. Because again, we just want to reduce any of those manual steps for adding an additional template if we can.
This is another popular one that I've heard about. And I think this is not exclusive to Double. Some I've heard that Financial Sense has something similar, where you've got your client maybe already in the system. Maybe you did a diagnostic review, you had them connected, you've already done a little bit of work with them. Um, but when they go through the final onboarding of proposal and contract and billing, Anchor then creates a duplicate client in Double. So we've heard that people are starting to see that where they're getting multiples of the same client in there. Um, to let you know, like more of the context, Anchor is looking for an exact match. It has to be identical. So even spacing or punctuation is going to make it look like it's a different client or a different contact. So they're looking for that client name and the contact email. And if they don't match, it's going to create one. Um, I think if you have one piece matches, then it will send you an email to double check it.
Yeah,
Is
I
that
can
right,
kind of
Erica?
fill in the gaps here. So, if you're seeing a duplicate come up, like that's the issue that you're running into and the problem that you're seeing, the client name is probably your issue because it says, "Ooh, these names don't match. I'm going to create a duplicate account here." But if the email address is the issue here, then what's going to happen is Anchor's going to send you an email and say, "Hey, I didn't find a contact or a client in Double with this contact. Who does it match to?" So if you're automatically seeing a duplicate and you didn't get an email about it, client name is probably your issue. If you're getting that email, then we just didn't add that contact before. That happens a lot if you have to send it to one person but a co-owner signs it or the AP person signs it and that contact isn't attached in Double. So just kind of depending on what issue you're facing, either of those is probably going to go on behind the scenes and be why that happens. So one of the best like workflow solutions during this is if you've added this client already, so they've done a cleanup with you before and you're adding on monthly bookkeeping services, or you've added them during the sales process at some point and now you're sending out the contract. Either way, a double check of Double is going to be your fix for this. We want to make sure client name is exactly the same. And like Jody said, that an extra space is all that will be needed to create a duplicate, honestly. So double checking the name and making sure that any email addresses that you have on file are also in Anchor and in Double is kind of your best double check on the front end just to make sure you don't get a duplicate. And then you have to figure out which one do I delete and then add all of your other templates. So checking on Double and making sure that exact same thing, like copy paste, is going to be your best friend here when you're adding that to Anchor.
There are some who are concerned about you set up all the mapping, but now you're going to do some edits in Double to the templates. Maybe you're changing subtasks, you're adding new tasks, you're changing the checklists or something like that, or even changing the name of the template. And does that mean that you have to go back into Anchor to redo the mapping? Great answer here is, or good news is, there's no solution needed. Like you don't have to worry about that. What Double and Anchor are looking at is the template ID number that Double has. So that's what's getting mapped in the background. not the name of the template. So you can change the name without having to go back into Anchor and remap those. If you were to add a new template and you're like, I want the new template mapped, that is when you need to go back to your mapping and select the new template. So that way it's grabbing the new ID number in the background.
Okay. And then one of the other issues that we've come across as we've been helping people kind of set this up or talk through this process is Anchor can only add a an unconnected client, right? Because it doesn't have the information to help you log into QBO or log into Xero. This does mean that if, say, a client signs up for monthly bookkeeping services and it drops in our closing template that has SOPs on all of those really cool default double reports, so expense inconsistency and uncategorized transactions, those aren't in there yet. Like they aren't visible because it's an unconnected client, and that section is like blurred out essentially behind the scenes. So what can happen is Anchor says, cool, I'll drop in that template. I gotcha. Drops in that template, but that section isn't there. It's not going to throw an error or anything. It's just not going to drop anything in. So when you connect that client, those SOPs aren't in there. So this actually is not an Anchor specific issue. This comes in if you're using Zapier and you're using a totally different proposal software. This is just going to be one of those issues that happens in the onboarding process, at least to date. Double does not have like a solution for how that software can know the QBO login. So couple of different ways that you can tackle this. We can not apply the closing template at signing. We can actually map it to just an onboarding template. And one of those tasks says, once the client has given you QBO access, then drop in that month end template. Okay, so you can use an onboarding template that just kind of reminds you and prompts you that once it's in there, go in and drop that template in because all of the tasks will be in there to add SOPs to. So that's one way to do it. The other is to create a bookkeeping template for any of the other custom tasks that are in there. So gather your statements, do your journal entries, send the client, send the report to the client, anything like that. And then you can create a separate template that has any of those tasks that aren't going to be possible until it's connected. This is sometimes a really good solution if you have some clients who are on a software that is not able to connect with Double. So QBD clients, you're still going to have the same process, but you're not going to have those connected templates or those connected reporting tasks. So sometimes that can actually be a really good workaround is to have that bookkeeping template that's kind of all of your custom tasks that don't rely on that connection, and then a separate one for connected client month end. So, however you want to tackle that, whether you go an onboarding template that just reminds you to drop in that other month end template, or you drop in the month end template that has the custom tasks that are going to be there, and then you drop in a separate template that has those connected tasks. Either way is totally cool, but just be mindful of that when you're setting this up, just so you don't run into the issue where you get surprised after the fact when half your stuff dropped in, but the other half didn't. Okay, with that, that was a lot of words, a lot of troubleshooting. Let's make sure that the actual visuals, especially I'm one of those visual people that I'm like, okay, I was following, but I don't know that it connected. So let's go ahead and shift gears. I'll actually screen share and do a little live demo walkthrough of what any of that actually looks like tangibly. And then as we're starting to shift over, feel free to drop in any questions that came up as we were talking about those, or if you have any other topics that you want to cover as well. So I will screen share here. Give me just a second to choose the right tab. And Jody, quick check. Can you see Double right now? Is that screen coming through?
I'm going to stop sharing. Yes, we can see your Double.
Okay, beautiful. So let's walk through that actual connection process behind the scenes just to make sure we know where all the buttons are to get set up and get mapped here. So inside of Double, we're going to go up here to the cog, top right corner, practice settings. And then from here, you will go to, actually, it's on this front page. So practice management. general tab here, and then that double API is down here at the bottom. Now, this is that step that we were mentioning. If you are not the super admin, you will just see from here up and be mega confused. So that's one of those just to know that this section won't be here, but it's as simple as generate the API key. So super simple there. And then you can just copy from here. They have a little handy dandy copy and paste key here. And then when you go into Anchor, so I have that open on a separate tab here. So once you log into Anchor, automatically drops you on the dashboard, but we're going to go down to integrations. So this will show you all of your options. We're just going to scroll down to find Double and hit connect. This is where you're going to paste in that client ID and client secret. So I'm going to stop my share for 2 seconds just because this is special to our account. So give me 2 seconds here. We're just going to hit copy and paste on either of those. And then hit save. And once you do that, it's going to kick you back to the integrations page and you'll just hit manage connection. Now from here, you can disconnect at any time if you need to add this to a different Double account or any reason under the sun. But the magic button here is just map services. So from here, you can see all of the services that I have, services or packages, same kind of concept here. And then you just select the template. It comes in a little drop down and you can scroll through all of the templates that you have in your account. And then you can also type in here to kind of shorten if you know that it's called onboarding, but you don't want to scroll through. So from there, like I mentioned, you can drop in a single template. So for cleanup, I dropped in the cleanup template. Super simple. But if we wanted to do that workaround where I talked about having to do 2 and also drop in the onboarding, you can see and drop in as many templates as you want when somebody signs up for that service and signs the contract for that. So it's honestly super simple from there. The only other thing that I want to mention before we kind of open up the floor is we did mention that when they sign the contract, it's going to create that new client, add an email contact in the client portal for whoever signed that contract, that email address, and then drop in the task templates. We spend a lot of time on those task templates, and that makes sense, but I want to make sure that everybody feels comfortable and understands, and there's no like raising of the shoulders here, that when I mention that it's going to drop in or add an email contact to the client portal, that does not mean it's inviting them automatically as well. So you still have a buffer in between. It's going to add that for you so you have one less admin step to go copy and paste that email address. But if we go into that client that, let's say it's dropped in the onboarding template too, or my weekly tasks or anything like that, then I can still go into the portal and my contact will be in here and then I can invite them whenever I'm ready. So we don't need to worry about, okay, it's automatically going to go behind the scenes and invite my client and I haven't been able to look at my onboarding questions or customize anything. That's, you still have buffer room there, even if it adds it automatically. So just wanted to make sure everybody felt comfortable in that, you don't have to worry about it automatically inviting your client before you get a chance to look at your onboarding questions or customize that at all. Jody, I went through that kind of fast. Is there anything that I missed when it comes to the actual integration side of things that you can think of?
Don't think so. Pop over to Anchor one more time and let's show like what is the screen that when you first log in, does it take you to the dashboard?
Yep, takes you to the
Okay.
dashboard and then you go to integrations from
Scroll all the
here.
way down to the bottom there for the integrations. We did that step pretty fast, so I wanted just to revisit it to make sure people
Yeah.
knew where to find that integration and then scroll and look for your double.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm glad that we
Perfect.
covered that one. The other thing that I'll mention, just for sake of thinking this through all the way for you so that it's a little bit easier when you hop in, is sometimes we want to double check this before our first client, but we don't want to charge ourselves in that process and have to do the bookkeeping behind the scenes of, okay, I charged a $450 PayPal or payroll or anything like that. So when you're setting up your services initially, you can set these all to 0. play around with a contract, send it to yourself, and have yourself sign. So that's one way to kind of test and make sure that everything's going to go through properly before you like so you don't have to do any charges or anything crazy like that. So that's how you can test that behind the scenes and make sure that everything's going to work before your first client.
While you're here,
Oh yeah.
Erica,
Yep.
Kate is asking for us to show once more where we paste in the API key.
Yeah, absolutely. So to get there, we went to our practice settings just to make sure I'm covering this. And we said generate API key. That's where we had that copy and paste. And then in integrations, when you scroll down to double, I'll actually disconnect so you can see it exactly as it shows up. So scrolling to double, hit connect, and that's where you're going to paste in those two fields that we got from double, just exactly as they are. Once you hit set, that's kind of your save, and then it'll take you to mapping what templates you want to drop in when a client purchases this service. Great question, Kate.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't have any other questions right now about the integration, the information we went over. So everyone, we invite you, go ahead and drop in questions about anything else. If you have questions about the integration or anything we went over, feel free to ask it. But the floor is open for any and all double questions.
Yeah, so Ruth, I see your question about what's the client secret. This is a really interesting naming convention. I actually don't know why they call it client secret, but ultimately, when you generate API key, you're going to see client ID and client secret. So, not 100% sure why it's called that, but those are your two fields that you're just going to copy and paste exactly into Anchor. And Kate, yep, you're absolutely right. So you're going to get that API key from Double. Then you're going to drop it into Anchor so it connects the two accounts. And then third step is just to map those services and say, what template do I want to drop in? So three step, but that API part and the connection is two part. Absolutely.
Then Erica Alexis has a great question. We had talked about duplicate clients, and the suggestion that we gave was a before. So before you do your Anchor integration or before you have your client sign through Anchor. But do we have any solutions for what happens after? If it happens and we find that we have a duplicate and double, what's your recommendation on how to handle that?
Yeah, Jody, I'll give my first pass on answer and kind of show a demo and then fill in any gaps or kind of give your perspective here. So I don't have a duplicate exactly in here, but what I would do if it were me, I would go onto my client page, right click. I had to double check which was my right and left for a second. Right click and open these in a new tab. So I would just personally open both up in the tab. I would go to the one that was created first. So the original that I had in there, because that might have some client portal questions or some tasks that you had previously. So that is kind of the master that was already in your account. So I would open up that master first and I would open up the client portal so that I could essentially go into the one that Anchor created as my secondary and just copy over any information here. So one of the things that it's going to drop in is that client contact. So I would just make sure that that was in my master and pasted. And then from there, if there was any other templates that were dropped in, then I would make sure that those also got dropped in as well. So from here, I went a little faster. From that master client that was already in here, you can go to that drop down kind of down arrow, templates. And let's say my month end was the new one that dropped in. I'm just going to make sure that that's in my master by applying it to that client, and we can either preview or apply without previewing. That's just going to make sure that anything that was dropped into that new one is also set up in my original. And then from there, now that I have everything transferred over that I needed to, then from here on that duplicate, I can go in, hit the down arrow from my client list, client options, and delete that secondary because I've transferred over anything that was in the new one. So that's the way that I would make sure that my contact got moved over any templates that dropped in got moved over, that's the only thing that Anchor's going to do. So I would just make sure those two were set up in my master and then remove the duplicate. So Jody, anything you wanted to clarify? The wording got kind of hard in there. So let me know if that
No,
sounded like Charlie Brown's teacher by the end.
nope, that is absolutely perfect. Like you said, I'll just do a quick recap.
Yeah.
What Anchor is creating is the client page here, the client account, dropping in that contact and adding a template. Nothing else is happening in the background. People aren't getting notified, no communication is going out. So it's simply just a startup, a space for you. So Erica's absolutely right. It's going to be a lot more manual steps. That's the downside. So it is going to require copying things over, double checking that you have the right templates in there. And then yes, I would agree. I would delete the that new one that's not needed. I would not archive it. I would just straight up delete it because it's not anything that you need to save once you've gotten everything transferred over. So if you do the before step, it's going to save you a lot more additional steps at the end. So that would be the thing, or probably best practice, I would say, would be to try to double check those things in double before sending an anchor. But if there is the case where you notice it after the fact, it's just going to be a few more manual steps for you.
Yeah, exactly. And Lexus, if that happens, and you triple check that email contact was already in my master exactly. And the client name was exactly the same. No extra spaces, no com, no nothing. Then what I would do is make sure to go down here to double support and send them a message about that and let them
Yes.
know, hey, I double checked this. The email name or the client name is exactly the same. The email name is exactly the same and it was on that contact before. Is there anything else I should troubleshoot or should I send in a bug report or can you send in a bug report? So that's how I would tackle that. If you did your due diligence and you triple checked, then just let them know that there's a bug on the back end so that nobody else runs into that same issue and
Yep.
they can double check on the back end and make sure there's nothing going haywire that is going to continue happening on that
Yes.
side.
Excellent point.
That's one that I think I at least get really worried about being a bother. But I'm gonna tell you that if you're running into an issue, there's probably somebody else that either didn't have the time or didn't want to send in that request because they thought it was just their error. So we've heard specifically from the double team, no, send in everything. I want to know if something is borked so I can fix it. So I will give you permission because I have to give myself or Jody has to give me permission all the time, ask for help and let them
Yes.
know that something is going haywire. It may not be an immediate fix, but it's one of those that I will pass along from them that they have said, don't let me have a bug in here. Let me know. I just might not have come across it in the same way. So, Lexus, hopefully that answers your question on how to tackle it if something does happen and what to do if you did everything you were supposed to and it still created a duplicate. I would go to double support first and then Anchor if they can communicate with Anchor if there is something on that side. Okay, beautiful. So I don't see any more questions at this point, and that's perfectly okay. Feel free to continue dropping questions in. I'm going
Yes.
to take a little bit of nerdy time to show you a fun couple of bits and bobs that we have found that you may not know about or that are relatively new. And then we'll shift gears, go back to our slides, and just let everybody know how to find this recording, how to get in contact with us if we opened a can of worms and you were like, oh, I need help in double. So we'll shift gears here in just a second, but I want to show you a couple of things. So I hear all the time, and this was my experience, that I would not log into Double because that default here in the client list is all helpful information, but it's so much. And especially if you are running a busy firm, this whole page is filled out with clients and you got a whole lot of different sections and all the tasks are screaming at you, it can be a lot to get your bearings, especially Monday morning before I've had my coffee. I didn't do anything work on the weekend, and I'm just like thrown in and have to do a whole lot of mental work before my brain's really on for the day to figure out where the heck to start. So obviously we can go to our task list and filter that down to, hey, what tasks do I have due today? That's amazing. But especially if we want to get a bird's eye view on, hey, what clients am I the most behind on? What do I need to have on my radar? My absolute favorite is to create a simplified view that I can always go back to the default if I want more information, but it at least doesn't scream at me first thing that I log into Double. So from the default, go up here to this little, kind of looks like an Excel spreadsheet or a Google sheet. Um, it's called Edit Columns. This does not delete anything, but it's just a hide and show. What columns do I want to show on this page? And I'm gonna tell you, I trimmed down everything that I don't need. Or that my brain just glosses over. That's usually my indicator for, hey, if I never look at this column, I should probably just remove it from the page. So once you edit your columns, you can save a view and save it as a new view, which you can do as private just for yourself or public for the whole firm if everybody's getting overwhelmed by this. And once you save that view, it's just going to be here in your dropdown. So I created this morning a simplified month end view. So this is my example for I am not worried about payroll right now. I'm not worried about my weekly tasks. I'm not worried about my onboarding. I am in month end mode. It is crunch time, 1st through the 10th. I've got to get stuff done, or I want to check in on my team who's working on month end. And honestly, I just show the status. We can do a fun, fancy column about service tier if we wanted to. But honestly, I just show client portal. So I know if there's anything that I need to tackle, because that one's not going to have a due date or show up on our task list. So I might need to know about that because that may be my blocker. I couldn't do anything until the client answered me. And then I show this closed progress bar. So I like to think about this as a Domino's pizza tracker for like, where am I at in the process? But the coolest thing about this, it is helpful to know, hey, I have 20% on this one, 69% on this one, 80% on this one. I should probably start on the one that's most behind, as long as I have the info that I need, right? So that can kind of help you quickly triage. But I didn't realize for a very long time that you could click into this and then see
My
all of the
favorite.
sections. The exact same thing as on the default. I can see everything. I can scroll through those different sections if I need to figure out where I left off or what I still have done. And on top of that, you can tell I'm getting really nerdy if my pitch changes that much. But I think the cool thing from here as well is this can be my triage spot for the morning and say, hey, oh, shoot, I actually already did that. Let me go in here and just check these off from here as well. So this can be a really great spot to bird's eye view. Who am I the most behind on? Zone down a little bit and say, where do I need to hop in, right? Like what area of this client or what part of the process am I on? And double check anything if you just didn't mark these as checked off, but you did them yesterday before you logged off. So this is one of my favorites, both because it helps on that overwhelm, but it doesn't sacrifice being able to zoom in without loading that client page and scrolling down to the bottom to see where you left off. So that is my nerdy, hey, if you didn't know about this, you probably should moment, because this is the thing that I highlight on all of our diagnostic reviews for people that are like, this default just makes me scared and I don't want to log in every morning. This is my hack for that.
Okay, so I too am super excited and nerdy about this. So I'm piggyback.
Yes, please.
Um, Erica, go ahead and click on that progress bar again. So
Yeah.
not only can you check these off and say, wait, oh yeah, I finished those, they're done. You can also update the due date. You can change the assignee. You can
Mhm.
mark it as, oh, it's in progress or
Waiting
I'm
on
stuck.
client.
You can edit some of this here, which is really exciting.
So cool.
Because it's just a nice little thing that you don't have to go all the way in to make some of those changes. Um, I wouldn't do that if you have a lot to do, but those little minor changes here and there, it's kind of nice that you don't have to go all the way into the client page to do that or search for them in a different area. The other piece I wanted to piggyback on is about the visual overwhelm. Can you go back to one of the other views that shows more columns?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go back to our default and we'll play with it from there if we
Yeah.
need to trim down.
So we currently have a feature turned on that by default is not. So right next to where the edit columns is special filters. Click on that. At the top, you have some display settings. uncheck that top one. This is default, is it is going to show you everything.
So I'll scroll over where we actually have
Pre,
tasks.
yeah, some, there you go. It'll show you absolutely everything, and it'll give you a, 4 out of 4 are complete. If it's in green, that means it's done. If it's in red, it's overdue. If it's in that gray color, then it's just not done yet, but
Coming
it's
up.
not due yet either. When you have a lot of clients, a lot of tasks, a lot of columns, that gets overwhelming really quickly. So when you turn on or you enable that feature to display incomplete tasks only, it clears away the extra numbers. Those 4 out of 4 where it showed complete, that's just gone. It's not even on your radar anymore because it's complete. It's done. You don't need to worry about it. So I love having that on because it minimizes the numbers on the screen. It minimizes the amount that your brain has to process and just shows you what you need to know. So you don't even have to see like, okay, 0 of 2 done. I got it. I haven't done anything yet. But with it turned on, you're like, oh, there's 2 tasks overdue. Your brain just gets there a hair, faster, which we're all very busy. That can add up and really make a difference. It's also kind of plays into that decision fatigue. Your brain gets fatigued when you're trying to process things all the time. Added and extra things that are on your screen, it takes your brain more to process through. So clean that up and only show what you have to show. With that in mind, too, there's one more. Scroll back over to where you can see the chats. If you are utilizing the chat feature in Double, there's also a way to decide how much you want to see there. So this setting of whether or not you see just open or unread, that kind of thing, is going to be in your practice settings. And I have to remember where it is in practice settings. Is
I
it
think it's in
workflow?
workflow.
Where was that? Scroll down.
Display
Yeah.
open comment count.
So that'll only, so we have this enabled, so it's only showing the ones that are open. If you disable that, it should show
I may not
more.
have enough in here.
But it
um,
changes the icon. So now you'll have to click on it to see if there's anything in there, um, to see if there's anything open. So again, it takes away all of the icons and just gives you a number to show you how many are open.
and kind of makes it easier for your brain to orient to the tasks or kind of pending items rather than I have to click in to get more info, or I have to process through the fraction to get the two or something like that. And these all sound so tiny and semantic, but it's one of those that if you're finding yourself getting overwhelmed with stuff in Double, especially this page, those are some of the little things that you can basically immediately gut check and see, oh, I like that, or that is the exact same to me. And either way is okay, but those are some of the tiny things that can make this page way less overwhelming. Now, this is one that we could go, and I think we actually have a Q&A recording that is all about save views and how we can create dashboards for payroll and blah, 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 and onboarding and stuff like that. So you can take this and run with it. But we just wanted to share while there was some interim time, like this is one of those screens that can honestly, like it sounds dramatic to say, but can kind of make or break Double, especially for anybody that's already overwhelmed, that is doing solo work, and I'm doing my damnedest by myself, or who's new to Double. Like a lot of these can kind of make it to where this feels good and supportive, or makes it feel like now I already want to have a panic attack and I haven't even done anything yet. So just wanted to kind of quickly cover that.
So we do have a couple questions coming in. Thank you
Yes.
guys. Love that. We're going to take Ruth's first. Ruth said, if I answer a team member question and then mark it as resolved, will it still show as as open for the team? The answer to that is going to be no. It's not going to show as open if you mark it resolved. That will resolve it for all team members. However, if you've added a comment to it, then there's going to be an unread item for the other team members. Those unread items will have a little blue or purple, blurple, whatever we want to call it, color, it will have a dot there. That's going to be the indicator, the notification, or like the icon to say, hey, there's an unread message here. Um, so even if you mark it resolved, the other people will still see that there's an unread comment, but it's not going to show up as an open item. So that's just to be very clear there. And as Erica was showing, you're going to see in the icon at the top, like your notifications. You'll see that there as well. Again, as an unread item.
Yeah. And I can always unresolve from something from here. So,
Yes.
Ruth, if I was your team member on the other side, you marked it as resolved to say, hey, no other action is needed here. Um, but I now saw that because it was unread for me, I can always go in and add another comment to that if I have another question to ask, or hey, so does this mean blah, 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 and clarify. So I think that that's kind of best practice is if there's no other action needed, resolve it. It's not going to hide from that other person. It's still going to be unread. And that person can take action to unresolve or comment back to it if there is further clarification needed. But that's kind of best practice that we found because, dear goodness, these comments and chats can stack up. So
Yes.
just make sure that you know that process and how it works so that you can choose to leave it open if it's still an ongoing thread back and forth. There is no resolution versus it's resolved. We've tackled everything. I've commented the person I need to. And then from there, they'll have it as an unread to still see it, but then they know, hey, everything's taken care of from here. So, Ruth, that was a little bit of a longer answer, but hopefully that helps you understand behind the scenes
Yeah.
of how that works as well.
And while we're talking about that, something else that I've seen in many, many accounts is people will add a note that's more like just for themselves. It's not an action item that somebody needs to do something about. It's just a note that is, something like had issues getting the statement this month. It's just a comment, just a note uh,
Yeah.
to attach to that task as an FYI. It's not actionable. It's not assigned to anybody else. It's just a comment. But so we type anything and we close it. It's just there for an informational thing, but it shows as open. I've, again, with our diagnostic reviews, we've gone in and seen so many comments that are just internal FYI statements. Um, what I highly recommend is with your team, do a best practice. If nobody needs to take action on it, nobody needs to review it or anything like that, add your comment and then mark it resolved right away. Marking it resolved does not remove the comment from the task. It'll still be there, but you're not going to have it showing up as an open item and having those build up for you.
So we'll do a quick example. So I'm not tagging anybody, commenting here, and then I can immediately go in and actually mark as resolved.
Yep.
So that way it's not open, it's not going to flag, it's not going to add to the number count or anything like that, but it's still attached to that task if I do need to go back or if I need to go up into my chats and search for something. So it's a really good way to do that. Great
Yeah.
comment there.
And Ruth just asked a great question here. She said, should I always at mention a team member? In our opinion, again, every practice is going to be different. So decide amongst yourselves how you would like to handle that. In my preference is to, yes, always notify the team member or always at mention the team member because that then notifies them. They will get a notification in the bell in the top corner. If they choose to enable it, they will get email notifications as well saying, hey, there's a new comment for you. They can turn those on or off here in the user settings. So I really like having that app mention. It makes it very clear who is responsible, like who needs to pay attention to this, who needs to resolve this, who needs to answer it. It gives great direction that way. And also it adds to that visibility. So that would be my personal preference. But again, every firm is different. Everybody uses this in a different way. So you can decide amongst yourself and your team how do you guys prefer to have that communication?
Yeah, and just to kind of like yes and kind of clarify a bit, Ruth, a lot of times we're so worried about this getting to the right person and them actually taking the action that's needed on this. So that's why that action can be the most helpful is it's directive, like Jody said, this is the person that needs to take action on that. So it's not just, oh, I thought you were going to do that. And it makes sure that it actually gets to that person instead of that visibility gap where they just didn't know because they weren't tagged in it specifically. So Ruth, thanks for that clarifying question. I'm really glad that we were able to cover that.
Erica.
Katrina has one question.
Yep.
Let's do you want to do that one really quickly and then scroll over to the sides or what feels best?
Let's flip it. So Katrina, we see your message. We're going to get to it real quick. We want to share some exciting news with everybody, highlight something real quick, and just to give you guys more information. That way, if
In case
anybody
anybody has
has
to hop
another
off. Yeah.
meeting coming up, you're able to jump off, but we will answer that question. So a few things next month, same time, third Wednesday, 2 o'clock Eastern. It's gonna be Wednesday, July 15th. Our next Q&A, it's gonna be about using Double for cleanups. So we'll give you some tips and ideas of ways that you can do cleanups in there and utilize all the awesome Double features to help make cleanups more efficient. Um, but we also are really excited to announce that we revamped our favorite offer. It is a guided support bundle. So we have updated Double templates. We have newly recorded videos, walk through your own pace, all of that. That is now active live, available for anyone who is needing more support with getting started. Anything
Yeah,
to add there,
exactly.
Erica, or you want me to jump over?
Um, just to add like 2 cents more, but there's a ton more that you're welcome to go kind of find that info page or reach out to us and kind of ask questions. But this is a really great one if you're like, okay, I want to get Double set up. I want to use it as my main project management, or I want to put SOPs in there, but I cannot start from scratch, or I am so worried that I'm not going to actually follow through and I need some help for the questions and the kind of like hand holding that comes with that. So, just wanted to kind of add that for like, who is this a good fit for? But obviously go on that page or reach out to us if you have more questions or want to know if that's exactly right for you.
Yeah. And then this is the next announcement that we have that I am super, super excited about. We've been working very hard at creating a new space. It lives in Circle. It is going to have a variety of things available in there. There are free resources. All of this here you can see is open access. This is available to any and everyone. We also have some of our paid things like the courses we just talked about live in this space as well. And then we will be releasing a membership opportunity next month. So this is just an awesome space that we are going to continue to build out, continue to add to. And we just want to make you guys aware and invite you to join us in this new space.
Especially if you're like, ooh, this is really fun. I'm just like trying to soak up all the Double things that I can, like a sponge. This is our new space that we've been working on for that specifically.
So you join for free, explore. There's no charge to join the free spaces. And then if you choose to add on more, it's available for you. One thing I like to highlight is that we have the Q&A, these replays inside of our Circle account, and you can watch them there. So if you don't like watching in YouTube because then you get distracted and go down a YouTube hole and start watching all
That's
sorts
way
of
too
videos,
relatable.
um, can you tell this happened to me? You can watch them in here in kind of like a silo place, right? So you can watch them, get the content that you need, and stay focused on what you were trying to do without getting distracted by all of the other content out there. So that is another thing. It's part of this free space in here for you.
Yep. And then the last mention here is that if we opened up a rabbit hole and you're like, wow, you know a lot about Double. I need capital HELP help on anything from training my team to, hey, I think I've got this set up, but I'm really unsure. Can you give me a second set of eyes and some recommendations? Or if you need more help from there, right? So, hey, I need some templates or gals, I will tell you everything about my clients, but I do not want to set a single thing up. Can you help me? We have a full spectrum of support to just meet you where you're at, whether that's a little tidbit, training your team, or helping in any capacity. So just wanted to mention that we can contact us by going to our website, hughesandstrong.com/contact, and I will help get you to the right spot. Have a call with me to kind of explore options, anything that you need from there. So
All
with
right,
that, let's make sure we get Katrina's question here. So I will go ahead and reshare. 2 seconds. Okay, beautiful. So Katrina, lovely question. So she's asking these client statuses or closed statuses, as they're called in Double, is there a way to like attach them to where as you move through the process and you check things off, they automatically change? That is an amazing feature request that either is out there and we should all upvote, or if not, that we will go ahead and add after this and send it out with the recording. So right now, no, there is not a way to say, hey, after I've checked off this task in the process. So let's go to a client and give you an example. So if I say, hey, after I've done payee entity review, automatically mark it as this status. Not available yet within Double, but what we've seen as a workaround is to add a custom task, like maybe in your additional items section, that at this point in the process, mark the status as this. Or up in pre-close or pre-reconciliation, whatever you have that as, after all statements are gathered, mark this client as ready to reconcile. So that's kind of the workaround here, is just to build that into your tasks so that it's visible for where those updates happen. And then if anybody's curious, you can go into practice settings, workflows, and close status options to edit the ones that you have. So you can see that we have a couple of extra ones in here for ready to publish or needs adjustment. You can do things like onboarding leads. So that is how you can kind of create those segments or statuses that you want. And then I would recommend, because that's not a feature right now that's automatically built in, make sure you have a task indicating where that change needs to happen. So Jody, anything you want to add on to that?
the only one I want to add is here in our practice settings, you do have the option to have the status automatically change to done once
Mhm.
all closing tasks have been marked complete. Um, so
Is
scroll
that this one?
down. I think it's down in our global settings. Oh, where is it?
Autocomplete close? Yes.
Yep, there it is. So that is the only one right now that's connected, but that means that your progress bar has gotten to 100%. So when it hits 100%, it can kick the status to done. It's the only one right now that has that automation. But I absolutely love this idea. We need to make sure that it gets put into the feature requests. Um, so that's the only added one I had for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good one to mention. So Katrina, hopefully that helps. It's not the best answer, because there is a feature limitation there, but you can at least turn on to where when everything's checked off, that it automatically gets marked as done. Perfect. And then actually,
Mhm.
I will piggyback. I know we're right at time. One kind of extension thought that's pretty quick is, if this automatically marks it as done, you can have Double create the next close. So that's one thing that can help if you're running into the gap of like, when do I create the next closing period?
It's
So
at
I
the
will go ahead.
top. It's at the top,
Perfect. Thank you. You're the
the
best.
very first
Uh,
setting.
Auto create close. So that means that on the first day of the month, anybody that has been marked done in their closing status, it'll create the next period. So that's one that can kind of go in tandem if you have it auto mark that status as done, or if you just have a really good process and everybody's knitted up about, hey, when you're done, mark that status as done.
Yeah.
So beautiful. Okay, well, you guys had some amazing questions today. Thanks for helping us kind of clarify some things, add some more context, really great ideas in here. So, with that, we'll go ahead and give you your day back. We'll send out the recording on Friday, and then we'll be back next month, same bat time, same bat channel, for how to use Double for cleanups. So, with that, have a great rest of your day, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.